I've been a weakling since I was little. The fortune teller said my energy was way too negative, and I needed to hook up with someone who has pure positive energy to survive and serve as my life coach. So my parents took me to see Mr. Hắc Yến. He's a big shot in City A, and the quest to save my life using his, assets began. I kept my parents' advice close to heart, and after getting cozy with him, I sought every chance to pursue him. Mr. Hắc Yến was as icy as an ice cube. Nonetheless, I stubbornly stuck to him like glue all day long, and every night I kept begging for more. Thanks to my relentless efforts, I actually started to feel better. I was so full of energy, I packed my bags and fled for dear life. On the day I was leaving, Mr. Hắc Yến chased me all the way to the airport. Just before boarding the plane, I couldn't help but yell at him. "Your service is terrible. I'm not your maid anymore, and I don't need your nonsense." After I said that, I cheekily raised my middle finger. Little did I know the plane had to turn back right after takeoff. Wait, what? Anyway, Mr. Hắc Yến, looking all dark and gloomy, pulled me down from the plane. Seeing the danger in his eyes made me gulp. "I'm sorry now. Is it too late to say that you need to control your temper around Master Hack? You can't go wild like at home, got it?" I looked at my parents' worried faces and obediently nodded. My mom gently patted my head, then suddenly whispered in my ear, "You need to find a way to be with Mr. Hack. Best not to leave. Understand?" I nodded again. "Don't worry, Mom. I've got this. Off you go. Uncle Lai is waiting outside." My parents escorted me to the car. After getting in, I watched my parents slowly fade away, and a rush of indescribable emotions hit me. Since I was little, I've always been frail and sickly. The fortune teller had predicted I was extremely negative and needed to be with someone who has pure positive vibes to survive. "Mr. Hắc Yến, you hold the power in City A, and the great master said you have super positive energy, making it impossible for me to approach you." My parents nearly sacrificed all their family benefits just hoping I could live. So even if I'm not living for myself, at least for my parents, I'll do my best to stay alive. "Master, we have arrived." The driver stopped the car and opened the door for me. As soon as I got out, I saw two burly men in security uniforms standing in front of the villa. The moment they spotted Uncle Lai and me, their eyes turned alert. Uncle Lai hurriedly stepped forward to say a few words to the gatekeeper. Not long after, a guard picked up the phone and said a few words, and the gate swung open. Uncle Lai grabbed my suitcase, and I nodded at him. We walked towards the Hack family's entrance together. As soon as we stepped inside, a servant came to lead us. Shortly after, Uncle Lai and I were brought into the living room of the Hack villa. The living room was quite majestic. All the servants had serious expressions. "The room for Master Lamb is ready. Master Hack will return at 5 o'clock. Master Lamb can rest in there for now." After a long journey of over 2 hours, I truly felt exhausted, my face pale and breath unsteady. I nodded in agreement to the maid's offer after saying a few words to Uncle Lee, letting him go, while I followed the maid upstairs to my room. As soon as I entered the room, I didn't bother to look around and dove straight onto the bed, closing my eyes. I quickly fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up, it was already dark outside. I sat up, trying to remember where I was. Feeling anxious, I hurriedly got out of bed, slipped on my slippers, and rushed downstairs. Just as I reached the last step, someone suddenly stepped out from the side. I was so startled that I stumbled right into him. A warm, calming breath slowly enveloped my limbs and body, making my usually cold physique feel unexpectedly cozy. I squinted in delight at the fantastic feeling. I couldn't help but nuzzle into that soothing warmth, grinning up at him, completely oblivious to the brooding storm on his face. The chill radiating from him made those around us shiver in fear. I was lost in my comfort when a deep, masculine voice came from above. "Had enough hugging?" Instinctively, I replied, "Not yet." After a few seconds of silence, reality hit me like a ton of bricks. I slowly looked up, and there he was, a handsome, yet cold face that made me shiver. Before arriving at the Hack family, my parents had shown me a picture of Hắc Yến, the family's powerhouse. At that moment, I thought he was pretty handsome, but his striking presence felt a bit intimidating. Only when I met him in person did I realize the picture couldn't capture his aura and even diluted his good looks. But his gaze at me now was genuinely frigid and frightening. Not planning to let go, Hắc Yến spoke again, his tone colder than before. Suddenly, I snapped to attention. I quickly released him, but thinking of my mom's instructions, I wrapped my arms around him tightly again. "Hello, Mr. Hack. I'm Lambda, hoping to learn a thing or two from you." My parents had told Hắc Yến that I would be by his side learning. I felt a tad intimidated by Hắc Yến. Even though he was only 28, he could overshadow everyone in his family, assuming the role of the powerhouse. I'd heard of his abilities and tactics, but despite my fears, to survive, I had to endure. Hak Yen's tone was stark, as if commanding, "Stand up straight and talk." I still clung to him, refusing to rise, squeezing his waist tighter, and whispered weakly, "I'm feeling dizzy." Hak Yen stayed silent, but the atmosphere grew tense as my heart began to race. Finally, I heard him say, "Take her upstairs to rest." Hearing that, I thought they were going to pull me out of Hak Yen's embrace. No way, God knows that just hugging him for a moment made me feel so much better. Hak Yen was like my personal energy drink. Hearing that, I thought they were trying to drag me out of Hok Yen's embrace. How could they? God knows, just hugging him for a moment made me feel like $1,000,000. To me, Hok Yen was like a big deal. A life-saving pill without you is like asking me to eat dirt. I don't want to break. I just want to stick with you. As soon as I finished, the whole room fell silent. Your folks are pushing you to learn from me. But it's about serious stuff, not this nonsense, Hok Yen said while tugging at my arm to pull me away. I turned into a kangaroo, clinging to him with all my might. Your parents said you gotta go. Go with you because you've put my parents in a corner. Don't blame me for hitting back like this. I might not be in shape, but my mind's sharp as a tack. That made Hok Yen choke on his words again. He was about to back off. The room went dead silent. Seizing the moment, I buried my face in his chest, inhaling the faint scent of sandalwood from him. Suddenly, Hok Yen's breath seemed heavier. Before I could even think about whether I had made him so mad he might explode, he yanked me away from him. My feet barely touched the ground when my balance toppled, and I instinctively wanted to dive back into him. But unexpected twist. He stepped back a few feet, making my hand slip, and I hit the ground with a thud. My knee slammed into the floor, pain jolting through my body, and my eyes immediately went red. Ouch, I can't believe I wanted to cry this much. Never have I felt such agony. You should know that I've been fragile since I was little. My family was always worried about my health, treating me like a fragile eggshell and a delicate flower. Nobody ever wants me to feel pain, and yet just meeting Hok Yen for the first time, he pulls this on me. I shot him a look full of accusations. Your folks didn't tell you to bully me. I'm furious. I was so angry it seemed to freeze Hok Yen's expression momentarily. After a long beat, he coldly declared, "You should have thought twice." After saying that, he turned and headed upstairs, not even giving me a second glance. I was stunned by his actions. Shouldn't he help me up and shower me with some sweet words? What a heartless guy Hok Yen is. If not for the fact that I had just lunged at him and felt a bit better, I'd really be questioning if he could actually make me feel good. But what if he keeps barking orders at me in the future? I hesitated, pulling out my phone, intending to call my parents to pick me up. But just then, I got a text from my mom. She asked if I'd arrived at the Hok family house yet, reminding me to stick to Hok Yen like glue. For my own good, make sure you don't leave his side. I sniffled, fighting back tears. How could I forget the price my parents paid to bring me to Hok Yen's home? Why? Well, I guess I'll just hang around here. Besides, it's to keep me alive. Thinking about survival, this little bullying from Hok Yen was like a drop in the ocean. Hey, Master Lamb, let me help you up. The housekeeper seemed to notice I was still down and came over to ask. I thanked his kindness and stood up myself. Just as I got up, I headed upstairs. While showing me the upstairs before the housekeeper pointed out Hok Yen's bedroom and office. He even cleverly reminded me not to disturb him, but sorry, I'm totally gonna bug him now. I went to Hok Yen's bedroom first, but found no sign of him. So off I shuffled to his office. I politely knocked on the office door twice, and without waiting for a reply, I pushed the door open and stepped inside. As soon as I entered, I was met with Hok Yen's icy glare that could slice through steel. Goosebumps erupted all over me. That scary gaze, is it even human? I hesitated for a moment, debating whether to run or dive in, but finally gritting my teeth, I stepped forward and once again plunged into his embrace. The vibe grew super tense. Hok Yen didn't say a word, but I could feel his eyes intensely on me. I hesitated a bit before speaking. I forgive you for bullying me today, but you better not do it again. Got it. His long fingers suddenly pinched my chin, forcing me to look directly into his eyes. Just one glance from him had me trembling in fear. I didn't want to appear too timid, so I finally mustered up the courage to tell him, "You can't push people around like that anymore." The coldness in Hok Yen's gaze slightly shifted. After a long pause, it felt like I heard him let out a sigh. "First, let go of me." No way, I bit my lip, adamantly refusing to comply. Although I knew this was pretty embarrassing, and had our roles been reversed, he could have easily accused me of harassment. Hugging Hak Yến felt incredibly cozy. In 21 years, this was the first time I've felt so relaxed. How could I let go? If you don't let go, I'll call someone to take you home right now. Why are you acting like this? You agreed to my parents, right? I said. I never said you had to stick to me like glue. Growing up, I've never been scolded like that. Every time I hear like a clingy dog, my eyes go watery. As I looked at Hak Yén's face, it twitched, his already gloomy expression darkening even more. Well, boys don't cry, right? So why can't I tear up even if blood's spilling? It's not that bad. If I had to choose, I'd still rather cry. I shot Hak Yến a disgruntled look, seeing him getting even more exasperated at my words. I had intended to keep clinging to him, but as I saw his expression, I started to feel anxious. Slowly, I began to move, trying to get off him. Unexpectedly, Hak Yến tightened his arms around my waist. With a firm grip, he pulled me back closer to him. Once again, warmth spread throughout my body. All my exhaustion seemed to melt away. That comfy feeling made all the pent-up frustration inside of me fade away. My mood lifted, and I looked up to smile at Hak Yến. He coldly stated, "Can you please chill for a second? Why is it that you always have to say such unpleasant things?" Initially, I was ready to snap back, but then I remembered what I spoke last time. The first time I felt this good. How could I let go? If you don't let go, I'm calling someone to take you home. Why do you have to be like this? You promised my parents. I definitely did not. Agree with your parents for you to cling to me like a fried dog treat. Seriously, never in my life have I been scolded like that. Hearing those words about fried dog treats made my eyes tear up. I was totally over Hak Yến. Yen's face twitched. His previously gloomy expression turned even darker. Boys don't cry. They bleed, and you're crying like that. What's the deal? Why can't I cry? Even if there's blood, it hurts like crazy. If I had to choose, I would still want to cry. I looked at Hak Yến with frustration and noticed his face getting even more annoyed at what I said. I was going to keep clinging to him, but when I saw his expression, I started to feel scared. I gently moved, intending to get up from him. No way did I expect Hak Yến to suddenly squeeze my waist tightly. He wrapped his arms around me, pulling me even closer. His warmth spread through my body again. It felt like all my exhaustion melted away. With such comfort, all the grievances in my heart slowly faded away. I felt better and managed to smile up at Hak Yến. Hak Yến coldly said, "Can you calm down a bit? Why is it that this person always has to say such annoying things?" Initially, I was going to retort, but then I remembered what I said last time. Talking to you doesn't seem very polite. I'm afraid it might upset you and ruin my chances of getting close enough to cure myself, so I just bowed my head and pretended I didn't hear what you said. Seeing that I was silent, Yan Huo broke the silence again. "What's the reason you absolutely have to stick to me?" "The reason is, of course, to get better, but I can't admit that. My parents told me that Yan Huo really hates being used. If you found out that I was getting close just to heal myself, you'd definitely kick me to the curb. So how do I explain this in a way that allows me to stay here and cling to you?" My mind was racing. Suddenly, a light bulb went off in my head. "I like you. Would that be a good enough reason?" I gathered all my courage to look into Yan Huo's eyes. I thought he would react a bit to my confession, but his gaze was as cold as ice, showing no signs of wavering. I felt a wave of disappointment wash over me, but quickly, a sense of defiance bubbled up inside. I looked up at him seriously and said, "I really like you. My parents know I like you, that's why they brought me here. The whole studying with you thing is just an excuse." Finally, this time, a flicker of emotion crossed Yan Huo's face. However, he still spoke in an ice-cold tone, saying, "I'll give you one chance, leave my office immediately. If not, I'll send you home right away." Even though Yan Huo scared me with his words before I dared to talk back a little, but now I didn't dare to say anything. My sixth sense warned me that Yan Huo was dangerous right now. If I didn't leave, I would regret it. Luckily, I hugged Yan Huo for a bit earlier, so my body still felt warm and cozy. Therefore, I slowly eased out of his embrace, not daring to look back, and hurriedly ran out. Back in my room after leaving the office, I recalled the words I just said to Yan Huo, and my face felt hot. But that warmth didn't last long, gradually returning to normal. Thinking back, I've thrown myself into Yan Huo's arms a few times. What's the big deal about confessing? If a few sweet words could help my health, I'd happily repeat them every single day. But clearly, Yan Huo didn't seem to like this right now. So how can I keep him from kicking me out? Is just confessing and hugging not strong enough? It hadn't been long since I was in the room when I heard a knock on the door. "Young Master Lamb, it's time for dinner." Yes. I didn't feel hungry, had no intention of going out to eat, but thinking that maybe I could run into Yan Huo made me rush out immediately. But when I got to the dining room, Yan Huo was nowhere to be found. "Young master, where's your brother?" I asked a nearby servant. "The young master has gone out." "Out where?" "I'm sorry, young Master Lamb, we're not clear about the young master's schedule." The servant's answer stunned me. "Yan Huo went out. Is he coming back tonight? What if he doesn't return tonight? Did my confession scare him off, making him not want to see me again and decide not to come back? So what about my chances of recovery?" Thinking about this, my already pale face turned even whiter. What should I do? I felt like a headless fly frantically running around, completely losing my appetite. I dashed to the big door, my eyes glued to the entrance, desperately hoping the servant would come back to give me some news. They had told me to go back to my room to rest a few times, but I just ignored them, staring outside with hope. The cold wind blew for nearly an hour, and I began to feel lightheaded and dizzy. I clenched my teeth, wanting to persevere, but ultimately, my weak body gave in. My vision started to blur. Just when my vision darkened, I slowly leaned back. Before completely losing consciousness, I felt like I was falling into warm arms. When I woke up again, I found it hard to breathe. The feeling of suffocation was unbearable. I couldn't help but whimper in pain. "Awake, are we?" A cold voice broke through beside me. Instinctively, I turned my head. As soon as I saw Yan Huo, my body nearly reflexively wanted to spring up and throw myself at him. However, as soon as I tried to get up, I realized I had no strength at all. After just a little movement, I fell back down again. "What are you doing? Come a bit closer." I looked at Yan Huo with earnest eyes. At this moment, I couldn't care less about what he said. All I wanted was to rush into his arms. Yan Huo looked at me for a moment and finally stepped closer to the bed. As soon as he stopped, I immediately grabbed his hand, hoping to use his strength to sit up. "When you're sick, you need to rest properly. Don't cause any more trouble," he said coldly, pulling his hand away from mine. The moment his warmth slipped away, my heart sank and my eyes turned red. "Please don't leave. Let me hug you." Feeling weak, I couldn't help myself. My words came out softer than I intended. Yan Huo glanced at me, his usually cold eyes flickered with an odd hint of warmth. After a moment, he sat down beside the bed. Seeing him do that, I couldn't help but feel joyful. I quickly reached out to pull him closer. Lacking strength, I couldn't sit up to hug him, so I pleaded. He leaned down, looking less than thrilled, but he still leaned in. When I managed to hug Yan Huo, my cold body started to warm up gradually, and my strength slowly began to return. This bizarre situation left me quite amazed. Yan Huo really was like a miracle remedy for me. "You really shouldn't go out in the cold anymore. Don't you know the condition of your body?" After I hugged him for a while, Yan Huo spoke up silently. His tone was still cold, but less intimidating than before. "I didn't want to be out in the cold either, but when I came down, you weren't home. I didn't know where you went and was worried you wouldn't come back tonight." As I said this, I felt a lump in my throat. Yan Huo seemed... My cold body gradually warmed up and my strength slowly returned. This strange situation left me amazed. Yan Huo truly was like a miracle cure for me. "Don't go out in the cold anymore. Don't you know the condition of your body?" After I hugged him for a while, Yan Huo spoke up silently. His tone was still cold, but not as frightening as before. "I didn't want to go out in the cold either, but when I came down, you weren't home. I didn't know where you went and was worried you wouldn't come back tonight." Speaking of which, I felt a lump in my throat. Yan Huo seemed... I wanted to say something, but ended up just giving T a gentle pat on the back, unsure if it's because Hak Yến was feeling too relaxed. I had just woken up and drifted off again, feeling like something was slipping away. I quickly reached out and hugged it tight. The next morning, I woke up to find myself in Hak Yén's arms. So I had slept next to Hak Yến last night. As I watched him still deeply asleep, I gently sat up and realized my body was bursting with energy. Usually I felt so drained and powerless. Even though I felt more relaxed holding Hak Yến last night, the energy coursing through me now was a whole new experience. Turns out sleeping next to Hak Yến packs quite the punch. I gazed at him, feeling as giddy as a kid who just swiped the last cookie from the jar. Suddenly, Hak Yến opened his eyes, and the moment he saw I was awake, I dived straight into his arms, bubbling over with joy. "Hey, you're up. What time you heading to work today? Don't forget to take me with you, since I was determined to stick to him like glue." I obviously couldn't miss any opportunity, But contrary to my excitement, Hok Yen's mood didn't quite match. A chilly vibe radiated from him, making everyone tread lightly around him. His expression became stormy. "Why aren't you saying anything?" I nudged his chest gently. Hok Yen gave me a deep look before standing up and walking away. I was baffled by his attitude so early in the morning. Did he plan to leave me behind quietly? "Hey, Hok Yen, wait for me." At the crack of dawn, I stood next to his car, leaning against the door, making it clear I wasn't letting him leave. If he didn't take me with him, he'd said he would write. Hok Yen looked at me with a calm, icy stare. When did I say that I hesitated for a moment, but thinking of my own survival, I mustered up all my courage. I squared my shoulders, showing I wasn't backing down. Hok Yen stared at me for a long while, before finally saying, "If you want to go, then hop in the car." "Do you really think I can drive you to my place?" I paused for a bit, then felt a wave of joy creeping in. "So, you're saying I can go with you?" Hok Yen walked around the other side of the car and opened the door. Climbing in, I wasted no time and hurriedly followed him inside. The car slowly rolled out, and at last my heart felt a bit more relieved. At first, I was worried he'd change his mind and leave me behind. The sense of relief made me naturally wrap my arm around him and gently rest my head on his shoulder, feeling glued to him. It looked like Hok Yen wanted to pull his arm away, but I quickly gripped it tighter. "Just a little hug. Please don't be stingy." I didn't expect him to react, but surprisingly, he just turned his head to glance at me. His cold eyes held something I just couldn't decipher. Regardless, not understanding it was fine, being close to him was the most important thing. I wrapped my arms around his as we drove to Hok Thi Corporation, only letting go when we got out and went our separate ways. A moment later, I quickly hooked my arm back around his again. If he tried to shake me off, I made sure to give him a pleading look. This puppy dog face was my go-to move when dealing with my parents. If I wanted to tag along, I had to be a little cute and not cause any trouble. Hok Yen shot me a cold glance that seemed slightly warning, but he didn't push me away. So did that mean he was allowing me to hold on? I was about to squeal with delight, but caught myself before I could say anything, remembering he didn't like me causing a scene. I tried my best to control my excitement, realizing I was just overjoyed to be able to clutch his arm without a care. When I stepped into Hok Thi Corporation, every staff member looked at me in shock. Inside the office, Hok Yen turned to look at me. "Can you let go of me now?" No, I didn't want to let go, but I understood everything had its limits. I couldn't tease him too much, or I might lose my dose of healing. I obediently released my grip, my gaze lingering sadly. I looked up at him. "Can I sit next to you?" Hok Yen stared straight into my eyes, staying silent for a long moment before finally nodding. It seemed this icy director wasn't too uptight after all. I pulled a chair over and sat beside him, subtly grasping the hem of his shirt. Actually, I really wanted to hold his hand, but since both of his hands were busy, I feared bothering him might make him lose his cool, so I had to settle for this. Still, getting a bit of warmth like this was enough to comfort me. Was there a way I could snag even more warmth in one go? I tilted my head deep in thought. Hok Yen glanced at the part of his shirt I was holding, then looked at me without saying a word, resuming focus on his work. All morning long, I sat by his side, and honestly, being near Hok Yen was so cozy that even just staying still didn't bore me. In fact, he seemed to glance my way more and more. When he looked at me for the umpteenth time, I couldn't hold it any longer and asked, "Do you want to tell me something?" Hok Yen's expression slightly changed. "Aren't you bored? How could I be bored?" I asked, surprised. Being with him, how could I ever feel bored? Every minute with him felt like a precious gift. This time, Hok Yen's expression visibly shifted. I thought I saw a glimmer of joy pass across his face, but it quickly vanished, leaving me unsure if I had imagined it. "If you want to stay, then stay." "Of course I want to. I want to be here every single day." Even though his tone remained cold, I sensed something had changed. Just getting this sentence from him made me truly start going to work with Hok Yen every day. The staff at Hok Thi Corporation, initially stunned to see me clinging to him, eventually grew used to the sight. Even when I'd drag a chair over to sit next to him in meetings, they hardly blinked an eye anymore. Everything seemed to be falling into place. But I didn't feel happy, even as I always went to work alongside Hok Yen, hardly leaving his side. "Want to say something to me?" Hok Yen's face slightly changed. "Aren't you getting bored?" How could I be bored? I was surprised to ask him back. Being with him, how could that be boring? Every minute spent with him was like a golden treasure to me. This time, Hak Yen's expression changed noticeably. It seemed I caught a glimpse of happiness flicker across his face, but then it vanished so quickly I wasn't sure if I saw it wrong. "Stay if you want to, of course I want to." I wanted to be here every day. Although his tone remained cold, I felt there was something different this time. Hearing those words from him, I really started going to work every day with Hak Yen. The employees at Hak Corporation, seeing me hugging him, went from being shocked initially to getting used to it. I even dragged a chair next to him during meetings, and they didn't bat an eye anymore. Everything seemed to be going great, but I didn't feel happy. Even though I always went to work with Hak Yen, hardly leaving his side, my body didn't seem to improve at all. Even though being near him was pleasant, that warmth didn't seep into my body. It just hung around the outside. At this rate, my body wouldn't fully recover. I still needed to find another way. During lunch breaks, it was rare for me to not cling to him. I stood up and said I wanted to go for a walk. Where to walk? Hak Yen frowned at me. "It's just a stroll." Seeing he wasn't too pleased, I added, "Don't worry, I won't disturb others' work. Your body is so weak. What if I faint alone while walking?" "Oh, I'm not that weak. Plus, thanks to being near him lately, my health has improved significantly." "You don't need to worry. I won't." The word hadn't even crossed my lips when I saw Hak Yen stood up, his tall frame making others feel the pressure. "Are we going then?" I looked at him in surprise. Hak Yen said, "Didn't you want to walk?" What I meant was that I want to walk with you, so just come out and say it. Why say so little? Even though I grumbled a bit inside, I didn't show it happily linking my arm with his. This joy was genuine, but I was a little confused, wanting to take a stroll alone to calm down and think of ways to absorb more warmth from him. But now that he was with me, could I still be calm? Initially, I only intended to walk a few loops around Hak Corporation, but as soon as I hooked arms with Hak Yen and stepped out of the office, I noticed the once quiet lobby was now eerily silent. Looking at the employees working, I saw them all tense, sitting straight, and breathing a lot lighter. Seeing this made me feel a little guilty. It must be because Hak Yen was here. He was known for being cold plus with his strong presence. Surely no one at Hak Corporation dared to not be intimidated by him. "Uh-oh, I'm a bit tired. Should we head back? Let's not bother everyone anymore." "Not going anymore." When Hak Yen asked, I quickly shook my head. Before he could react, I had already dragged him back to his office. "I'll sit here without bothering you." I pointed at the sofa, letting go of his hand and sitting down. Hak Yen looked at me, and then at the sofa, his brows wrinkling slightly. Probably not thrilled. I was a bit worried and asked, "Is it not okay to sit here? Is there something decorative on this couch that'll break it if I sit? Should I go sit on the other side?" Hak Yen looked over at his desk chair. I gazed at him with a confused look, felt like he was making me feel something indescribable, and I didn't know what to say. Still, I spoke up. "I thought sitting next to you would be a bit bothersome for your work." Who said that? Hak Yen's voice suddenly turned cold. I hesitated, unsure how to respond. Then I suddenly heard Hak Yen say, "It's up to you." He walked back over to his seat without looking at me once. Seeing Hak Yen like that made me a little anxious, but then again, I hadn't done anything outrageous. Surely he wasn't angry, so my worry started to fade. I sat on the sofa thinking about how to absorb more warmth from him, but after a moment, I couldn't help it and pulled out my phone to browse the web. After a while of scrolling through the forums, I couldn't help but notice a post title that caught my eye. After climbing into bed, I finally got him completely. I couldn't resist clicking on it. Slowly fading away. I plopped down on the couch, planning to think about how to soak up more warmth from him, but just a few moments later, I couldn't resist and whipped out my phone to scroll the web. While browsing through forums, one post title grabbed my attention. After getting into bed, I finally got him all to myself. I couldn't help but click to see what it was about. The story goes that he finally got the person he's always dreamed of by sneaking into bed with them under the cover of night. After reading that, I suddenly felt like I had an epiphany. So if I and Hak Yen were to hook up, would I absorb more of that warmth I used to view things so narrowly? And now I get why warmth gets stuck like traffic. I pulled myself away from the post, my gaze falling on Hak Yen, who was deeply engrossed in work. My eyes suddenly lit up. At night, the villa was unusually quiet. I quietly opened my bedroom door, stealthily tiptoeing to Hak Yen's room, taking a deep breath. I turned the doorknob, cracking it open just a little, and then silently slipping inside. The room was shrouded in darkness, but I could still see Hak Yen lying on the bed. Instantly remembering what the wise sage of the post said about removing clothes, I surged forward. Without hesitation, I started peeling off my clothes. Just as I got my pants off, Hak Yen's low voice unexpectedly resonated from the bed. "What are you doing?" My heart raced. My body didn't know how to react, so I lunged at Hak Yen. "Lamb, to what are you doing with me charging at him?" Hak Yen's voice sounded a bit off. Yen's voice suddenly rang out from the bed. "What are you doing?" My heart raced, and before my body could catch up, I dashed towards Hok Yen. "Lamb, to what are you doing?" Hearing my charge, Hok Yen's tone reflected just how flustered he was. He grabbed my arm as I wrapped it around his neck, trying to pull away, but I held on tighter. "Don't wiggle away, Hok Yen. Tonight I'm absolutely climbing into this bed." "Wow, what are you coming here for?" Hok Yen tugged at my arm, and then suddenly stopped. "To get into bed, obviously. What else?" Running a fever, Hak Yen reached a hand to touch my forehead. "I'm not running a fever. Not running a fever, but you." Before he could finish his sentence, I swiftly kissed him. The cardinal rule of the bedroom says, be quick, forceful, and precise, fewer words, more action. So let's skip the chatter and dive in. Hak Yen leaned back, avoiding my lips. He was panting. His eyes held a bunch of complicated feelings I couldn't even grasp. "Can I pretend nothing's happening if you get off me now? All I want tonight is to get into bed with you, and I will succeed." Saying that, I moved closer to him, intent on kissing his hand and starting to tug on his shirt. "Lam Shu Yen." Hak Yen gritted his teeth, his face paling, his controlled deep voice twisted a bit, and his gaze became somewhat scary. But with my resolve to get in that bed, I stood my ground. Why say more at this point? Come on, can't you handle it? Hak Yen wasn't cooperating in the clothes removal department. I struggled for ages, still unable to get his shirt off. Finally, I felt irritated. "Do you even know what you're doing?" Hak Yen suddenly held my face tightly, his gaze icy, filled with a complicated emotion. I quickly kissed him. The article I read said, when you get to bed, you need to be quick, fierce, and precise. Speak less, act more. So let's skip the chatting and get to it. Hok Yen leaned back, dodging my lips. He was breathing heavily, and his gaze held a mix of complicated feelings that I didn't quite grasp. "Can you get off me now? Can I pretend nothing happened? You just want to crash at my place tonight, right? I will make sure it happens." With that, I moved closer, aiming to kiss him on the hand and slyly pulling at his shirt. Lam Su Yen, Hoak Yen gritted his teeth, his face pale, voice low and restrained. His expression was a bit terrifying, but my determination to get into bed prevailed. What was there left to say? "Let's go for it. Can't you handle it?" Hok Yen wasn't cooperating and wasn't shedding the layers. I tugged and struggled, trying to get his shirt off. Finally, I snapped, "Do you even know what you're doing?" Hok Yen suddenly grabbed my face, his piercing gaze revealing a chaotic complexity. I just couldn't get that shirt off him. Finally, I got frustrated and asked, "Do you even know what you're doing?" Suddenly, Huo Yan grabbed my face, his eyes cold as if haunted by a whirlwind of emotions. "You've been training me for over 20 years. How can you not know that it just takes one sentence? Are you in or out?" The look in Hok Yen's eyes turned complicated, like all his pent-up emotions finally decided to burst forth unexpectedly. Suddenly, he rolled over and pinned me down. "Don't regret it," he whispered in my ear, not holding back anymore. At first, I thought to myself, why would I regret it? But then I almost burst into tears. What's up with Hok Yen? He's like a wild animal ready to devour me whole, and I already said I didn't need it, yet he still wouldn't let go. The next morning when I woke up, I thought I'd be sore all over, but surprisingly, I wasn't in pain at all. I actually felt refreshed and full of energy, like I just had a magical potion. To be honest, Hok Yen is definitely my magic potion. I looked at my magic potion still sleeping beside me and couldn't help but lean in to plant a kiss on his cheek. Just then, Hok Yen opened his eyes, and his demeanor upon waking was completely different from what I had imagined. He was cold as ice and didn't say a word, getting up and leaving immediately. "Seriously, why are you so easy to upset yesterday? You held me close and wouldn't let go. What's changed? Is he still recovering from yesterday?" But all day long, Hok Yen didn't show any sign of being cheerful. Even though he let me hug him at work, he still wore that gloomy expression and barely spoke to me. He was like a walking iceberg. "What's going on? I worked so hard to get my body back in shape. Are you saying this method only works once?" That evening, I quietly snuck into Hok Yen's room. As soon as I entered, I didn't say a word, but immediately jumped onto the bed. The moment I touched the mattress, Hak Yến stirred awake. This time, he didn't resist me like last night, but wrapped his arms around my waist and pulled me down to him. And just like that, we fell into a wild storm of demands that didn't seem to end. When it was all over, I lay on the bed beginning to question my life choices. What in the world is happening? This guy acts like a block of ice during the day, but turns into a volcano at night. And that volcano is set on igniting my body. The next morning, I woke up feeling so much healthier. If this continues, I will definitely make a full recovery. Thinking that, I decided to stop worrying about Hak Yén's cold demeanor. Even if he acts frosty, he sure isn't indifferent in bed, and my body is definitely getting better. There's no denying that. So from that day on, I clung to him during the day and jumped into his bed at night, demanding incessantly. Even though Hak Yến still didn't talk much, I could clearly sense the change in him, especially in the way his gaze softened towards me. It was like he could no longer hide his tenderness, and at the same time, my body was fully recovering. The 4 words weak and sick had finally vanished from my vocabulary. "Let's go out and have some fun this week," I told him. Growing up, I never had the chance to go out because I was always dealing with health issues, but now that I've improved, I have to make this dream come true. Where do I want to go? Anywhere is fine. I've never really gone out before. "You look much healthier." Hak Yến assessed me, and for a moment there was a flicker of something resembling regret in his eyes. I was too immersed in my excitement about going out to pay attention to that. I wasn't just feeling better. I felt like I had been reborn. I really enjoyed this burst of energy. "That's good," Hak Yến said nonchalantly, his low voice sounding like he was suppressing something. After a moment, he added, "Tomorrow, I'll take you out." After saying that, Hak Yến immediately left. This time, I didn't follow him. Since I noticed a significant improvement in my health, I wasn't clinging to him as much as before. But every time I didn't, his face seemed to cloud over even more. After some deliberation, I finally picked a place I wanted to visit this weekend, an ethnic town in the suburbs of City A, which has recently gained popularity. I heard they not only have a lot of unique cultural attractions to see, but also a ton of fun entertainment. Early Saturday morning, I woke up very early, pulling Hak Yến out of bed with me. I barely had time for breakfast before urging him to get going. When we arrived at the ethnic town, I felt like a little bird set free. I just wanted to spread my wings and soar. "Is it really that awesome?" Hak Yến asked me, and I turned to him, nodding enthusiastically. "Of course, you have to take me out regularly from now on, okay?" Hak Yến stared at me for a moment, then reached out to ruffle my hair before nodding in agreement. I was overjoyed to receive that answer from him. Hak Yến and I would be together forever. Of course, wherever I go, he has to come along, even if he's like a block of ice who never smiles at me. I guess I won't hold it against him anymore. But little did I know, while Hak Yến wouldn't smile at me, he was actually smiling at someone else. When we came back from the ethnic town, I started planning our next adventure, but then the Hoak family villa welcomed a guest. "You must be Lam to write. I heard from Hak Yến that your health hasn't been very good. Are you feeling any better now?" Ha Than Tan introduced herself, showing concern for me. Even though she seemed genuinely interested, I felt inexplicably uncomfortable, as if she considered herself the lady of the Hoak family villa. "Yes," I replied coldly, then turned to head upstairs. I'm not the kind of person who forces themselves into uncomfortable situations when I'm not in a good mood. I wouldn't engage in small talk, but it seemed Ha Tan Tan wasn't willing to let me off the hook. She stepped around to block my path. "Lam To, isn't this a little rude? I'm trying to be friendly here, and you're reacting like this." "What does she want me to do, Ha Tan Tan?" She clearly looked angry as she glared at me. His face paled further as he grappled with my persistence. After some back and forth, I chose where I wanted to go for the weekend, a quaint ethnic town in the outskirts of City A that has become quite famous lately. I've heard it's not only filled with unique ethnic features to explore, but also has loads of exciting recreational activities. Early Saturday morning, I got up bright and early, dragged Hak Yến out of bed while he was still snoozing, and before we even had breakfast, I insisted we head out. When we arrived at the ethnic town, I felt like a little bird set free, just wanting to spread my wings and take off. "Is it really this fun?" Hak Yến asked. I turned my head and nodded enthusiastically. Urged him to go outside when we arrived in my hometown. I felt like a little bird finally free to spread my wings and soar when Hak Yến asked how I felt about it. I turned to him and nodded enthusiastically. Of course, from now on, you have to regularly take me out. Got it. Hak Yen stared at me for a moment, then ruffled my hair and nodded. Getting such an answer from him made me indescribably happy inside. Hak Yen and I will stick together forever. Of course, I want him to go wherever I go. Even though he's an ice block who rarely smiles at me, I'm done holding it against him. There was an indescribable joy swelling inside me. Hak Yen and I would stick together forever. Of course, wherever he goes, I must follow. Even if he's an ice cube who rarely smiles at me, I won't hold it against him. But at this moment, I didn't expect that while Hak Yen wouldn't smile at me, he would be smiling at someone else. After returning from the ethnic town, I started making plans for the next trip with Hak Yen when the Hak family villa welcomed a guest. You must be Lam To. I heard your health wasn't great. Are you feeling a bit better now? Ha Tan Tan introduced herself while showing concern for me. The Hak family villa was welcoming a new guest. You must be Lam To, right? I heard from Hak Yen that your health wasn't great. Are you feeling any better? Ha Tan Tan introduced herself and immediately started acting all concerned. But for some reason, it made me feel really uncomfortable, as if she thought she was the lady of the Hak villa. Yes, I replied coolly before turning to head upstairs. I'm not someone who puts myself in awkward situations when I'm not in the mood. I won't entertain this. But Ha Tan Tan didn't seem to want to let me go. She stepped in my way. Lam To, isn't that a bit rude? I'm showing concern for you, and you react like this. What did she want from me exactly? Ha Tan Tan clearly looked furious as she shot a glance at me. I wasn't about to put myself in an unhappy spot when I wasn't in the mood. No way would I engage in conversation, but Ha Tan Tan seemed determined not to let it slide. She maneuvered to block my path. Lam To, don't you think that's a bit rude? I'm just showing concern for you, and you react like that? How does she expect me to respond? Ha Tan Tan clearly looked pissed off, glaring at me. Don't think just because you're a scrawny little thing you can lounge around in this mansion indefinitely. I could totally have Hak Yen kick you to the curb. I shot her a glance and casually replied, just wait until you can actually pull that off. Once you're capable of that, then we'll talk. After saying that, I shoved her aside and made my way up the stairs. Even though I had thrown some shade at Ha Tan Tan, I was still fuming inside. I had no clue that Hak Yen had a childhood buddy. But thinking back, even though I've been around him these past few days, we hardly ever chit-chat. I really don't know much about him at all. As for Hak Yen, he's always been so chilly towards me. Maybe he just doesn't want to talk to me. Lying in bed, pondering what's been going on with Hak Yen lately, I couldn't shake off this gloomy feeling. I can't let this slide when he comes back. I have to make things clear with him. With that thought, I drifted off to sleep before I knew it. When I woke up, it was already dark. I bet Hak Yen is back by now. I hurried downstairs, but halfway down the stairs, I saw Hak Yen lounging on the sofa with Ha Tan Tan. It seemed she had said something funny because he was smiling while scrolling through his phone. At that moment, I can't even begin to describe what I was feeling. I felt ice cold, like my heart had just been squeezed. That night, I didn't get into bed with Hak Yen anymore. He already has a childhood friend. If I kept sleeping with him, I'd feel like I was totally degrading myself. But then to my surprise, Hak Yen came to my room. He seemed like he wanted to say something, but honestly, I didn't want to hear a single thing from him, or even see him. So I played dead and pretended to be asleep. That's how I stayed until the next morning. The next morning when I woke up, I found out Hak Yen had already left for work. Wow, now he can't even be bothered to take me along anymore. Did he take his childhood buddy with him? It seems like I'm not welcome here anymore. I went back to my room, and when I headed downstairs again, I was dragging a suitcase behind me. Butler, young Master Lamb, what are you doing? As soon as he saw me like this, he hurriedly asked, "You're leaving." I coldly responded and wheeled my suitcase outside. The butler looked like he'd just seen a ghost. What do you mean you want to leave? Have you told the young master? I'm not even part of the Hak family. This isn't my home. Why do I need a reason to go back to my own place? Besides, it has nothing to do with Hak Yen. After saying that, I totally ignored the butler and sped out of the mansion. As soon as I stepped outside, I whipped out my phone to call for a ride. Before I knew it, the car I had ordered showed up. An hour later, the driver dropped me off at the airport. Although I said I wanted to go home, I actually had no intentions of returning. My parents have always hoped I'd be with Hak Yen, and if I went back now, they'd definitely worry. Before figuring out how to break the news to them, I decided to hop over to another city for a while. Luckily, I was feeling better now. I could run around without feeling too short of breath. I bought a plane ticket to a nearby city. I got lucky. because it was off-peak season. Otherwise, given this situation, buying a ticket would have been super tricky. Once I completed the check-in process, I was all set to go through security. However, unexpectedly, Hak Yến appeared right in front of me. "Why are you leaving?" Hak Yến grabbed my hand and asked. Looking at his indifferent demeanor and remembering his smile towards Ha Tan Tan, my anger flared up. I couldn't help but yell at him. "It's because your skills are so poor, I'm just not impressed anymore." After saying that, it was my turn to go through security. I dashed past it like I was in a race. I didn't dare look at Hak Yến again, not with him standing there. Even when I finally boarded the plane, my mind was still in chaos. It wasn't until the plane took off that I finally felt a bit relieved. Still, Hak Yến couldn't make the plane stop. But I totally underestimated this man's abilities. After the plane took off, surprise, surprise, it landed again and came to a halt. While the passengers began buzzing about what just happened, Hak Yến suddenly appeared. He slowly walked toward me, which terrified me so much that I forgot I wanted to run away. By the time I realized what was happening, he had yanked me off the plane. His angry stare made me feel like he was ready to devour me whole. I just wanted to ask him if there was still time to apologize and to know why he left. After dragging me back to the mansion, Hak Yến shoved me into his room. He squeezed my hand tightly, pinning me against the door. With his cold demeanor, I couldn't help but feel a little hurt. My eyes instantly welled up with tears. Then he had the audacity to ask me, "Why are you always so cold to me, but you're all smiles with your childhood friend? When did I ever have a childhood sweetheart? You haven't even acknowledged her at home. Last night I saw the two of you sitting on the sofa and you were laughing with Ha Tan Tan." After I finished my rant, Hak Yến stood frozen. The hand that was holding mine fell away. He suddenly pulled out his phone and held it in front of me. "Last night I was smiling because of this," he said, referring to a photo of something. "This isn't Ha Tan Tan. She's just someone who visits my grandma. She makes excuses to visit her every month. I just can't bear to kick her out because of grandma." When I heard this, I saw the picture on his phone. It was a ring. What on earth does this mean? My heart started racing and a wild guess popped into my head. Hak Yến helplessly ruffled my hair and pulled out a dark blue velvet box from his bag. He opened it, revealing the very ring from the photo on his phone. "This is when we first got close and I had someone make this. I wanted to propose when your birthday came around, but it looks like I'll have to do it sooner." Wait, are you actually planning to propose? Why? Even though part of me had guessed it before hearing Hak Yến directly confirm, it still felt unbelievable. What other reason could there be? Of course, it's because he likes me and wants to be with me forever. But seriously, if you like me, why don't you ever smile at me? My mouth wanted to ask that, but my heart was already overflowing. There it was, again the photo on his phone. It was a ring. What does this mean? My heart raced. A hunch popped into my head. Hak Yến helplessly ruffled my hair, taking out a dark blue jewelry box from his pocket. He opened the box, revealing the ring from the picture on his phone. "This was the one we exchanged during our first time. I intended to wait until your birthday to propose, but I guess now it's time to move that up a bit." He pulled out a box. Opening it revealed the ring from that picture on his phone, a ring he had meant to give when we first crossed the line. He had planned to wait until my birthday to propose. Wait, he really wants to propose to me. Why? Even though I had guessed part of it beforehand, hearing Hak Yến admit it still left me in disbelief. What other reason could there be naturally? It's because he likes me and wants to be with me for life. How can that be if he likes me? Why doesn't he smile at me? My mouth wondered this while my heart was overflowing with, but why? Of course, it was because he liked me and wanted to be with me for life. How could that be? If he liked me, why wasn't he smiling? Though my mouth wondered this, my heart was already overflowing. To my surprise, Hak Yến playfully flicked my forehead. "Why aren't you smiling at me? You don't know, you little trickster. I thought you were a magical being, but you can't even pull off the simplest sincerity, yet here you are expecting me to smile." I was stunned by that moment. A thought flashed in my mind. Did he already know? All right, calm down. Even if he's just my consolation prize, I'm okay with that. After all, in this lifetime, I can only be by his side, and that's enough. Turns out, when the ice melts, feelings can get so much deeper. I couldn't hold it in anymore and dove straight into Yen's arms. "I like you too. You're not just my consolation. You're the one I really like. I want to be with you forever." After hearing my confession, Hak Yến hugged me for a moment before suddenly lifting me up before I could even react. Proposal too soon. So does that mean the wedding night can come early too? I stared at him in silence. What more was there to ask at this moment? Why not just go for it already? Emotions. If I couldn't make him smile, why on earth was I asking for him to? I stared at him. In that moment, a thought fleeting through my mind. Did he already know about all this? Okay, calm down. Even if I'm just his consolation prize, he's still willing. Anyway, for the rest of my life, I could only be by his side, and that was enough. Turns out, when an iceberg melts, feelings deepen like this. Unable to hold back any longer, I dashed into Hắc Yén's arms. I like you too. You're not just my consolation, but someone I genuinely like. I want to be with you for life. After hearing my confession, Hắc Yén held me for a moment before suddenly sweeping me off my feet. He felt that having me beside him for life was enough comfort. After all, in this lifetime, I could only be with him, and that was just fine. Turns out when ice melts, feelings can get deep like that. I couldn't hold back anymore and lunged into Yen's embrace. I like you too. You're not just my comfort, but someone I truly care for. I want to be with you forever. After hearing my confession, Hắc Yén hugged me tightly for a moment before suddenly scooping me up. He shot me up before I could even comprehend. Proposing so soon? Well, does that mean the wedding night could come even sooner? I just stared at him. What more was there to ask at this point? Why not just get straight to the action?